Hi, a quick warning before we start. You might find this video a little bit intimidating, especially if you are a beginner. This is like a heavy video full of information. So if you feel this video is not for you or you're still a beginner, I highly recommend that you watch previous videos before this one so you might get a little bit of context and you might understand a little bit. That's it and enjoy! When we talk about impulses in the brain, we are talking about action. All or nothing electrical spikes that race down neurons like microscopic lightning bolts. These spikes are the real alphabet of the nervous system. Ideas, habits, memories, beliefs. None of them exist as objects. They exist as patterns of spikes, distributed across networks, unfolding in time. Language comes later, meanings comes later. Underneath it all, the brain speaks electricity. A neuron at rest is not inactive, it's primed. In its so-called quiet state, a neuron holds a voltage difference about negative 70 millivolts between its inside and outside. That difference exists because of constant work. Ion pumps pushing sodium out and potassium in. Leak channels letting potassium drift back out more easily than sodium can return. Negatively charged proteins trapped inside the cell. The result is a charged membrane, a tiny biological battery. This resting potential is stored energy, waiting for the right moment to be released. Every neuron is a loaded spring. Incoming signals determine whether the spring snaps. Neurons receive thousands of input from other neurons, each arriving at synapses as chemical messages that briefly change the cell's voltage. Those inputs fall into two broad categories: excitatory signals that depolarize the cells and push it toward firing, inhibitory signals that hyperpolarize the cells and push it away from firing. Excitatory postsynaptic potentials, EBSPS in short, open channels that let positive ions flow in, make the inside less negative. Whisper, this matters, act. Inhibitory postsynaptic potentials, IBSPS, open channels that let chloride in or potassium out, make the inside more negative. Insist, not now, stand down. A neuron doesn't respond to a single vote, it tallies them all across space and time. Inputs from different synapses arrive within milliseconds of each other and get summed at a critical region called the axon hillock. If the combined voltage crosses threshold around negative 55 millivolts, the neuron commits. Once threshold is crossed, the process is irreversible. The action potential ignites in three dramatic phases. First, depolarization. Voltage-gated sodium channels open, sodium floats in, and the membrane potential rockets upward toward positive 30 to positive 40 millivolts. Repolarization. Sodium channels inactivate, potassium channels open, potassium flows out, and the voltage falls. And finally, hyperpolarization. Oh my god, that was hard to pronounce. Let me pronounce that again. It's easy, just made up from two parts, hyper and polarization. So hyperpolarization. Potassium channels linger too long, dipping the voltage below resting level before stabilizing. This spike is brief, violent, and precise. During it, the neurons enters a refractory period. Absolute refractory, no second spike possible. Relative refractory, a second spike possible only with stronger input. This refractory window ensures spikes don't blur together and force them to travel in one direction down the axon. The impulse then becomes wave. Each fired segment of axon depolarizes the next segment, triggering another spike. In unmyelinated axons, this happens step by step. In myelinated axons, the impulse leaps between nodes of Ranvier, a process called saltatory condition. Myelin changes everything. Faster signal transmission, lower energy cost, tighter timing. Thoughts traveling along well-myelinated circuits move like fiber optic signals. Poorly myelinated circuits scroll by comparison. Experience literally determines signal speed. At the end of the axon, electricity turns back to chemistry. When the spikes reaches the synaptic terminal, voltage-gated calcium channels open, calcium flows in, vessels fuse with the membrane, neurotransmitters spill into synaptic cleft. Those neurotransmitters bind to receptors in the next neuron, opening ion channels and creating new EBSPS or IBSPS. Then the cycle repeats. So, every signal is electrical within neurons, chemical between neurons, electrical again afterward. That chemical step is where everything important happens. Drugs intervene here. Learning modifies receptor behavior. Plasticity strengthens or weakens connections. Habit and beliefs solidify. Okay, now zoom back out. A belief is not stored anywhere. It's a tendency, a probability that certain neurons will fire together at certain rates and certain sequences. When you focus attention on a belief, you increase impulse traffic through that network. More spikes mean more calcium. And more calcium means more neurotransmitters release. More release means more plastic change. That is very important. And it's very obvious. When you ignore a belief, firing rates drop, calcium entry decreases, synaptic maintenance declines, receptors are removed, connections weaken or are pruned. Pruning is the process of removing of the old neurons that is not used anymore. The energy you feed an idea is literal. It's spikes, it's ions, it's physical. It's molecules moving across membranes. And the code has nuance. Information isn't just whether neurons fire, it is how they fire. Two major coding schemes dominate. Rate coding, how fast a neuron fires. Time encoding, which neurons fire together and in what sequence. Higher firing rates often signal importance. Precise timing create binding. Neurons that fire together, guess what? Wire together. This is fundamental in the neuroscience. When you want to change your belief, this is like a very fundamental and very important sentence. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Try to memorize it or take notes of it. It's a very important one. And you will hear it a lot. And you will hear it a lot, trust me. Beliefs, emotions, and habits are arithmetic patterns, not static states. They are orchestras of spikes, synced and resynced across time. Your inner life is not prose. It's not images. It's not even feelings. It is absurdly elaborated EDM festival made of sodium, potassium, calcium, and timing. So when you talk about feeding or starving ideas, this is what you're really doing. Adjusting firing probabilities, changing synchronization patterns. Oh my god. Teaching the brain which spike constellation deserve to become permanent structure.